Hi guys, and welcome to Dee's Media World. This is episode 27 in the Inuyasha review series, The Lake of the Evil Water God. So before we really talk about this episode, remember how last time I had said in the last episode that it was sort of like a calm after the storm, sort of like a, not quite a filler episode, but something like that's just kind of like a relaxing sort of episode, no real drama or tension. This is sort of how this episode is. This is actually really a filler episode. This is kind of the sort of the definition of a filler episode, and good filler in Inuyasha has always been like relevant to some degree. Like, oh, we're either seeing, the relationship between these characters. So it never feels like it's a total waste of time. But this episode, I don't think it's a waste of time because, we're sort of seeing the dynamics of Sango with the rest of the group. And she doesn't actually really want to be there, but she kind of has no choice. Because she kind of would either be all alone or on her own. And she definitely had no choice the last episode because she was still recovering from her injuries. But now that she's pretty much recovered, which I think has been about a month or so later, which is actually a short amount of time to recover from those kind of injuries, I think. But, she actually has, she doesn't really want to join them. And what's interesting the most to me is kind of the dynamic between Inuyasha and Sango in this episode. Because Inuyasha seems to be the most offended. Like, he seems to be the one that's like, hey, you should be with us. You should join our team. You think you're too good. You can't lift that heavy weapon over your head yet, meaning I want you to, I kind of want you to stay, and so I can sort of protect you. Not in the way that he protects Kagome, but, he respects her, I think. He's not going to directly say that, but he has, like, a respect for Sango because she's, like, this great fighter and this great warrior. And later on in the episode, when Moroku and Sango are talking, Moroku says to her, like, maybe Inuyasha's kind of a jerk a little bit, but he acts that way because he feels sympathetic towards you and feels that fighting is what you need to do because that's what he would want to do, to get revenge and all that stuff. So Inuyasha does have sympathy towards Sango. I actually never doubted that Inuyasha did. I think they all express themselves differently. Like, Kagome and Moroku are sort of like more of the they'll talk about it with you sort of thing. Kagome's good at being, she's kind of motherly, like she'll comfort you. Moroku will be like stay in the back a little, but he respects that you have to, mourn and stuff like he did in the last episode. And then Inuyasha feels that, you kind of have to fight it out of you, the anger and rage and stuff. So they all sort of care about Sango in different ways. I mean, obviously this is more about like Inuyasha and Sango than like the others and their feelings towards Sango. But, there is some dynamics there. And I like that. I like that this episode shows like, oh, she might have some issues, but it's not so much with the group as it is with her just finally being on her own and stuff like that. And the episode really is about teamwork. And like, if you notice, like almost everybody had a part to play in this episode. Even Shippo, I mean, he's the one who brings them to the village because because the episode begins with them like, well, it really begins with like Inuyasha and Sango and them arguing, but Shippo goes to like they're looking for Naraku's castle, and then they come across this village where this water god uses child sacrifices. I don't know how often. I don't know if they said how often they have to sacrifice a kid or whatever, but and he sees that, and that leads them to this battle that sort of makes them closer. Even Shippo has something to do with in this episode, which is usually not the case. But yeah, like this episode, back to what I guess the episode is actually about, or sort of what it's surrounding these characters and what their main objective is that this, as I said, this village sacrifices children to this water god or whatever. And it's been going on for the past 6 months or so. So the headmaster of the village, he'll convince, because a white arrow will hit the hut of the person who has to sacrifice their child. And he'll be like, you got to do this. But now we've come across where his own hut has been hit with the arrow and he has to sacrifice his own son. But instead of like being, noble or whatever and actually sacrificing his child, he sacrifices someone else's child, his son's best friend. And tries to use him to sort of disguise his son not dying. The one thing I was thinking, and maybe the first time since I've seen this episode in a while, is who are the parents of the headmaster's son's best friend? I think his name is Suichi or Tokiichi or something. I didn't really write it down because it didn't really matter, but where are his parents? Like, is he an orphan or something? Because, no, I don't think so, because the headmaster's son is like, he's my best friend. We grew up together. And and stuff. So I'm like, well, where's his parents were cool with this, like him using it as a decoy? I guess the headmaster was somehow able to convince them. That's really messed up, by the way. Convince his parents to sacrifice their son instead of his son. I don't know, but yeah. So the guy uses the sacrifices. You know, it never occurred to me. We find out later on that this water god is actually a fake water god, and that he was actually a sprite. I guess some type of snake. It looks like. He was a sprite or whatever, and that he took the real water goddess is really the water goddess's Triton somehow, and took over and stuff like that. But if he wanted children to eat, and I guess that's kind of thing, why didn't he just like attack the village? I guess he's just too noble to do that, because he actually acts like he's better than everybody. And by the way, he has some killer eyeliner, by the way. The way he has, like, the way that the character is drawn, he has some killer eyeliner. But I feel this episode, you know, is really just there to say, you know, show the group work as a team, and to sort of get that dynamic going, because that's going to be sort of important later on. And see, in terms of the actual plot of the episode, I do like it. I think it's hilarious when Moroku and Sango find out that she's actually a water goddess, and she's like this tiny. And I don't remember if she grows. She does grow to an adult size, I think. I'm wondering how the water sprite actually got her tritons, because not only did he take her triton, but he actually locked her up too somehow with like a sacred scroll. So I guess he had this plan. Interesting. I felt bad for the water goddess, because I would hate to have power that's totally based off like a weapon, whereas I can't do anything without it. Like she can part the ocean. She can she parted the ocean with some berries in her ears, but she can do all this stuff with water, but she can't do any of it if she doesn't have her Triton. Like, she has almost no power, really. So I was like, dang, that sucks. But you know what I couldn't help but notice is that the fake water god was able to convince the humans that, you know, he was the real water god or whatever. That took some real convincing, because I'm curious what the water goddess did for the village, like, because clearly, well, I guess they don't really get to see the water god, but, you know, when the children are being sacrificed, they don't notice that this is the fake water god. So I don't know, like, I was curious about the dynamics, because that took some real convincing. He's clearly an animal, like a demon. He's clearly a demon, and he's a male demon, and she looks like a human. And she looks like a human, and she's a woman. So I don't know. I found that, I was like, I wondered, like, how did he really did some good convincing. He actually had a pretty good game going on. A little smarter than some of the other demons in the show. The only thing is that he needed the Triton. Yeah, because that also sucks. That if anybody has the Triton, they essentially can use it against you. Like in this is a random reference, but I think in the Little Mermaid, well, no, actually, other people can use the Triton, I believe. Because in The Little Mermaid, the TV show, random reference, there's an episode where King Triton, his Triton is taken. And I believe other animals can use it, though. So, never mind. I was going to say maybe they can't, but they can. Yeah, so this was a good episode. I liked it. There's some good jokes in here. I like that, you know everything's going to work out okay. This is actually kind of the start of probably something that happens a lot in Inuyasha, which is the Save the Village episode. Because, like, there's different types of filler in Inuyasha. I haven't, like, identified all of them yet, but that's one type, which is there's something going on in the village. They have to go save it somehow. There's some, there might be some issues. There might be some identity things going on, like fake people, fake characters, like in this case, it was a fake water god or whatever, or someone who's possessed. Possession actually happens quite often in the show. So this was actually one of the types of filler. I'll try and identify more of them as we go on, just like the next episode is actually a filler episode. So anyway, thanks guys for watching. I think that's really it for me. Moroku says a hilarious joke where he's like, I think he was talking to the small water goddess, and he's like, oh, it'll be a first for me, but I'm willing to give it a try. Something stupid. I'm like, this is a fool. But, Moroku's there for the comic relief. And speaking of Moroku, he is the main character of the next episode. So that's where our guys will see you. So, bye.